SCVs a little bit. I don't recall. Did we talk about this before?
No.
Siege tanks won't auto fire on SCVs that are dropped on top of them or anything for like 5 seconds. So like you can't just like call down SCVs on top of siege line and hope for like a ton of friendly fire to go off. Kind of a cool change. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves in, not a best of 1, a best of 5. Let's get the scores right. Between these two players. There's about $100 on the line, and I thank both these guys for coming out to play for us and you for your entertainment. Spawning here in the top right corner of the map from Axiom, the red Zerg player, Impact.
The bottom left as the blue Protoss, it is Crank.
Crank certainly feels that these races are balanced, I would say, and has no issues with the way the game is going on.
Yeah, okay.
Just a little joke in the lobby was, of course, him basically calling Impact OP. Why can't my 6 Templar hold your Hydras? I don't know how this one will go, but Impact's getting a lot of success with this sort of like mid-game, I guess, aggression. He's not really needing that Hive tech. But at the same time, Craig's not really been able to hold it off. So he's actually going to go for a Gateway expand this time, rather than the Forge first.
Interesting. Double Gateway, okay. That's cool. So it's what it's gonna sound like, right? It's not a proxy 2-gate or anything like that, but it is 2 gateways, so you can force out a lot of zealots and thus force out a lot of lings from Impact, especially if he wasn't to scout it for some reason or another. And I'm not sure Impact scouting. He definitely scouts in the mid game, but I'm not sure about early game scouting. It's not been, you know, thorough.
Well, this is odd. I just don't even know what to say about this. Base tank here in the middle of the map.
I wasn't even looking at the minimap. I thought that was just as natural, and like Crank was already over.
Well, as the last time we saw Bloody Ridge was when Red Bandit was putting proxy hatcheries down, but this isn't a proxy hatchery. This is Impact. Just,
I mean, it's a closer hatchery.
Well, you know what though? I can't help but think this is actually a pretty intelligent base to take, because look at the 2 ways you can attack it, right? There's this really awful choke you have to run through, or there's like this big open area you gotta go all the way around for. But I don't think Impact was expecting Crank to do early gateways, much less 2 of them, and crowding out Zealots. He ignores this awkward base and says, I'm just going straight to the main. And for Impact, the spawning pool is not done. The gas was taken. There is just nothing to really dedicate to the fence.
Well, he's definitely have to cancel this, but this bought a lot of time. You know, if this doesn't happen, maybe he doesn't have any defense at home and he loses a lot of drones. Of course, the Overlord's going to see it, but this actually takes up the Zealot's time. And he's probably, he's going to be with the last minutes possible. But this is a good build over cross for Crank. The fact that Impact went for this base probably works out well against a Forge Fast Expand, not so much against Double Gateway.
Yeah, the cancel, by the way. No units lost. The drone actually gets out alive. But this is so many Zealots at the front line, and quite frankly, I don't know if Impact can hold this. He's got Spine Crawlers coming down, and eventually these will help, but I think this is going to be very difficult to hold. Not without taking some real damage, at least.
I think so as well. I mean, you know, he tried to take advantage of the fact that spawning pool was later for Impact. You're doing that Forge cannon rush. That didn't work. So what else can you do to take advantage of the fact they don't get an early spawning pool?
I can't help but wonder if maybe he should have just gone across the map first as well, instead of going for that hatchery in the middle. I mean, that hatchery would have been more exposed to a follow-up than, say, the natural base, or the main base would, right? I don't know. Queen does run out of energy. Of course, you cannot auto-attack with a Queen and Starbow, guys, but its enrage costs 35 energy. However, it deals a lot more damage than the auto-attacks for a normal Queen do. These 3 Spine Crawlers who do the best they can to hold. Drones are pulled into this. But the first Spine Crawler goes down, and Zealots are trying to back away from the range of that other one. But Impact doesn't have a lot of mining going on behind this. Crank, however, doesn't exactly have his own natural down either. He's continuing to crunch out Zealots. He's really laying on thick. And guys, this is such a scary thing to consider because Crank is possibly out. If Impact holds this, if Impact wins this game, that's it. Showmatch over. We move on to the next one. So Crank really needs to win this one to bring it to game number 5.
Oh, Queen movie butt. Queenie.
Yeah, awkward. Trying to get that Spine Crawler out. Cancels the gas. You know what? Like, here's the thing, too. He's going for layer attack right now, but what is he possibly going to get with 100 gas, right?
Fire.
Or 200 gas?
Yeah, the problem is that gas has been just consistently denied. So, alright, he gets Aspire down, but you can't afford anything. But maybe you can afford Scourge. That's going to be helpful.
This is really unfortunate for Impact. This level of like this is like proxy gateway level of what's happening right now, but it wasn't a proxy. It was a regular gateway expand. Natural base is coming down for Crank.
Oh.
It looks like he's yielded the aggression for the time being.
It wasn't a regular gateway expand. It wasn't a proxy, you know? Like the problem with proxies, not only do you, it's a rush that could not work out potentially, but it also is the fact that your gateways are given up. Like if it doesn't work, that is 2 gateways down, no wall off, no instant, backup of units from those gateways, right? But by doing this, you still get some of the aggression from a regular like proxy 2 gate. It just comes a little later, but in return, you actually have a wall off and some emergency units if it doesn't actually work out.
It's so funny because, like, again, you point out, like, there was just, like, some metagaming going on here. Like, that hatchery early on as well cost him a lot. He canceled it, wasn't killed, but still, like, that's 300 minerals down early. That's why that pool was so delayed. And it was all, like, in anticipation of cannons, which I find hilarious. Now, here's the big thing. The Crank, he saw the... Oh, he didn't see the Spire.
Oh, really? Well, what else would you get a lair for? That's what we were talking about. Unless he figured he took down the gas so many times and so early, there was no way for him to get anything but a few Hydralisk.
Right, but I look at this, and you would have to assume Blink Stalkers would be made right now. Dragoons aren't the way to go, but that Cyber Core was so late because he had been laying on the gateway pressure heavily with those Zealots.
Yeah, I really think that he just assumed he took down the gas so often that Spire was not in the cards. Oh, he's getting a Stargate, and
Corsair's
okay, the
okay. Corsair's are a good response, actually. If you can't get Blink Stalkers at the time.
And, no matter what, even if he hadn't scouted that, if he wasn't thinking... Even if he assumed that it wasn't going to be mutas, it's always going to be a low amount of mutas, because those gases were so late. So you can buy enough time with cannons and go ahead and get a Stargate up. You're pretty much safe against everything because that gas was denied so heavily, whatever a lair could throw at you.
Well, unfortunately can't get a lot done, but as we see, with that gas count having been so low, there's really not a lot of Mutalisks out right now. So for a moment, this looks a little bit scary for Crank. But honestly, he's not in the biggest danger in the world. And he can Chrono Boost out a Corsair if necessary. Corsairs, of course, do splash damage. They attack very rapidly. He's not making one, though. He's making Dragoons instead, which are not really the best answer to Mutalisks.
There we go. First Corsair is on the way. Unfortunately, no cannon in this mineral line. The Dragoons are ready.
Yeah, they're not gonna really like. Look how long it's taking to kill one.
So slow. This is just
like they hit hard, but they just you're right. They're physically slow. They attack so slow. One Mutalist does go down. Impact's picking off a couple probes for this, but I don't know. Even if he gets every worker, I don't think it's worth losing all the Mutalisks for.
Well, here's the thing. I think he's going to transition into Hydralisk. Like, he's hoping that Crank over defends gets a lot of Corsairs, because then the Hydralisk bust is actually effective. That was a problem with last time, or the time that Impact. Well, I forget actually, but
actually,
if they go.
You know what's actually kind of stupid to consider? Let's not forget, if these Corsairs are made and the Mutalisks are canceled, he can then just use them to clean up Overlords around the map.
No. That's you just get Scourge.
Ah, that's true.
That is what you do. That's oftentimes why you see Aspire along with the Hydralisk then, is because if Corsairs are out, then you don't want all your Overlords to die.
This has to be the biggest misclick I've ever seen in my life. Impact, man. What was that? I
don't know.
I think those are probably part of his selection, because he was trying to burrow them initially when the Zealots came in, those 4, and the Mutalisks popped at the same time. So there's a possibility he may have like control clicked them together or something. I don't know.
That's funny.
Strange donation out of Impact.
Yeah.
That could have also been BM, who knows.
Impact, he doesn't have that many units, but speed is not on the Zealots, which actually takes away a lot of the power that Crank usually had. He usually always was going for faster speed lots and such. The Hydralisks weren't, 100% effective, I guess you could say.
That's true.
They're still pretty good.
Actually, what's kind of scary is even the Goons alone might not be enough. There's no Groove Spines yet for these Hydras, sure, but again, it's the slow fire of the Dragoons that just doesn't cut it. He moves into the cannons. Chrono Boost goes down on the cannons. For those who don't know why this is happening, it's not to make the cannons build any faster. They attack faster while Chrono Boost is on them. And looks like that's going to be just enough to start pushing this back. However, he can't sit here. He's got to hit and run. This is the problem with Dragoons. They can't deal with the attack speed of the Hydras. They've certainly got the... Oh, man.
I think he wanted to buy time just to get those cannons. He left a couple of Hydralisks back home. He could also have made some Scourge unless he was afraid that they would just, be DPS down too fast. But this is taking down, like, a lot of his attack. I mean, that's a lot of Hydralisks that are just chilling back at home as opposed to attacking the front. But Impact must figure that Crank has already defended it well enough.
Well, of course, here's kind of getting what I was talking about earlier. The impact is supply block before Overlord's about to hop here in a second. And you're right, this is a big part of this. Like, you could have made Scourge, whatever the case may be, but, you know, with so many Hydras having left behind and still losing Overlords, this is rather inefficient use of Impact's army.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a glorified patrol, like, I guess. At the very least, he's be getting something behind this, you know, something to advance himself as opposed to just running around trying to catch the Corsairs, such as a third. Or higher tech, which at least he's getting a Lurker Den.
Well, Twilight Council is got those leg enhancements finished up here for the Zealots, so this will be able to contend a little bit better. But transitioning out of this, you know, I kind of feel like Crank might get stuck. It kind of looked like it was happening in the last games leading up to this one as well. Like, getting stuck on that gateway tech versus a Zerg player. I mean, to an extent, you could try using Templar, Zealots, and Dragoons to win a game. But when it gets to that late part of the game, you really got to start thinking about, like, adding in shuttles was going for, but warp prisms to carry units around, get those drops off behind enemy lines. Hell, I don't think you really use Arbiters versus Zerg, but that cloak is never a bad thing to have. Oop, well, rest in peace, Corsairs. You did some good stuff.
I tried.
Well, Twilight Council coming up in a bump's time, so we will see the storms eventually integrated into this. For Crank, like, if it was like A move versus A move and neither player was microing, he could certainly take on the army of Impact, but Impact's got so many Hydralisks, he really needs that AoE out.
Yeah, and he needs to be, you know, in a place where you can run away, but...
Okay, hang on, he's got no detection for Lurkers again. This was a big problem last time. But the difference is, while he doesn't have the option of an Observer, he can make a Sentinel that has the Glare ability, like an Oracle. So he can
hopefully
get
he knows
detection
that.
out. Yeah. Again, like, we don't know how much these guys have memorized about the game, guys. It's a little bit different than regular StarCraft.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Crank's like, nope, nope, nope. Needs Storm to deal with that. But unfortunately, his army, like, if it runs away, his base dies. There's no winning position for Crank right here.
This kind of what I feel happened last time, too, for Impact. Like, he was able to split Crank's forces in a very strange manner.
Oh, God.
A couple Lurkers are in range of the cannons, but the cannons go down. Now there's no way to defend against this. Crank is actually going to have to tap out. GG is called, and Impact will take the series 3-1.